Great Lakes region people? My name is Ryan with Great Lakes Storm Chasing Network. We have an update in regard to our thoughts for the upcoming severe weather potential here for the region areas. We have a SPC day 3 risk that has now gone out for portions of Wisconsin, portions of Indiana, and also mainly portions of Illinois there in that slight risk, and also just clipping the very far southwest corner there in Michigan. So this is going to be for Thursday, and the risk that's going to be highest right now appears to be out to the west in Iowa, Missouri, and western Illinois there. Let's go ahead and dive into some of these models. Now, first and foremost, the SPC does highlight these areas, but they don't give specific areas in terms of like tornado, wind, and hail risks until the day 2 time frame. So we're going to have to wait to kind of see what they're thinking in terms of the hazard threat. But for right now, a slight risk is there, but also the 15%, there's a hatched area for significant severe weather. So in terms of that, they're probably thinking more so hail or maybe wind. Not really thinking this is going to be that of big of a tornadic setup, but it definitely bears some watching here, as that is definitely a possibility that we could see some tornadoes with this setup, especially in that slight risk area out in Illinois. But in terms of models, models are still kind of all over the place in terms of what their solution is to this. Now, I'll take you through two models. Okay, the first one is called the NAM3 or the NAM NST. This is a short-term, high-resolution guidance model that gives us a look at what radar could look like in the future. I move this through the Wednesday time frame into Thursday morning. We see a lot of activity out here going on into the Thursday morning time frames. And then as the system moves off from the west to the east, we see this line of storms out here in Iowa that takes shape. This is Thursday morning, and that's going to push and weaken as it moves eastward. But what that does is it's going to spark off more showers and storms out ahead of that line. And then additional development likely behind that line down here in Missouri, but also keep an eye out here for North Indiana and South Michigan because this model is hitting at those two spots in particular, mainly Illinois and Indiana. Michigan so far doesn't look to get too far into the warm sector, so it should just remain just some thunderstorms up there. But if that warm sector does lift further north, then Michigan becomes into the threat with this, which is why you're seeing that marginal risk clip the very far southwest portion of the state. So we're going to probably see this shift around a little bit as we get into the day 2 and day 1 time frames, but this is one model solution. Let's look at the other model here, the HRRR model. A pretty good high resolution model that we use often. And this model has a similar picture, but a more robust look at that line that was coming through. Let's go ahead and move this through the Wednesday into the Thursday morning time frame. Again, we see scattered showers and storms start popping up across the region. Now, keep an eye out west there. This is Wednesday night there. They have a risk out there in Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, and also Nebraska out there. Though they do have a pretty good threat for severe weather out there on Wednesday. But as we move into the Thursday time frame, that's going to be our time for severe weather, and that line materializes and matures as it pushes through Iowa, Missouri, and it's knocking on Illinois' doorstep there as early as 7 in the morning Illinois time out there. So this is a more robust look, and that's where the model ends. So that's all we can really view at this point. So we'll have to keep an eye on how far that progresses eastward. That could be a hail and wind potential there for portions of the area, but there's two scenarios here, right? So if this scenario does happen, we have a early morning squall line push through the area. The question then becomes, what does the threat later on look like? Because when that line moves through in the morning, it will likely turn the atmosphere over in terms of instability. So when the later threat does try to get going, it's not going to have as much juice, so to speak. So that's one scenario that could happen with this. Another scenario is this line may form what we call an MCV. Now, an MCV would aid in severe development later on as long as the instability is there. But the MCV is like a localized area of spin that could enhance lift to get storms up and going. It could also aid in development of wind potential and also tornadic potential. So there's two scenarios here that could work out. Both are intriguing, but also just bear some watching here as this does have some bigger bust, so to speak, potential for this system. Doesn't look as dynamic as our last system we had on the 27th of February, but definitely something that we need to keep an eye on as we head into the day 2 and day 1 timeframes. But overall, there's currently a day 3 outlook from the SPC with a slight risk across portions of western Illinois and then a marginal risk into southern Wisconsin, southwest Michigan, and also all of Illinois and western Indiana for the Thursday timeframe. Overall, we'll hop back on here and give our thoughts later on, probably tomorrow around the same time, around noon or so. Um, but otherwise, we'll be here monitoring this, and we'll probably go live here if need be. for radar coverage. And if we have chasers in the field, we'll go live here as well for those. But with that being said, guys, that is all I got for you. Just pay attention on Thursday. The forecast does call for potential for severe storms. Stay safe.